Hello Year 7 and Year 8. Welcome to remote learning with me, Mrs Adams, who's going to be taking your lessons. So the first lesson that we're going to be doing is cells. So it's going to be split into 2 lessons per week. So the first lesson is cells, and the facts you will need to learn that can be found in your fact book for this lesson are parts of an animal cell, which are listed, the extra parts of a plant cell, which are listed also, and what a specialised cell is, and the dyes that are used to see a plant cell and an animal cell under a microscope. So like always with all of your lessons, you start off with some questions. So I'd like you to look at the questions. It's just asking you some basic knowledge and asking you about some of the cell information. So what colour is the roaring flame? What do you need to use to look at cells? What do you look down to see cells? And name the organelle that controls the cell. So if you could pause the video, give yourself a few minutes, 4 minutes, a minute per question, and then we can start again. Okay, so let's see how well you've done them. So we've got what colour is the roaring flame, and hopefully you've all got blue. What do you use to see cells? It's a microscope. And what is the part of the microscope called that you look down? It's the eyepiece. And name the organelle that controls the cell, which is a nucleus. So hopefully all of you got at least 2 out of those 4 questions. If not, don't worry, it is asking you to remember and recall some of the information that you were taught at the start of Year 7 and Year 8. So we're going to look at, first of all, an animal cell. So you can see a basic animal cell there. We need to look at labelling it. Some of you might already know this. It's just a recap. It's part of revision. So we've got the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, nucleus, and the mitochondria. Now those 4 things exist in an animal cell and a plant cell. So the first thing that I need you to do is make a note of the information that you can see in front of you now. So you've got the list of the organelles on the left hand side, and you've got their role, their function on the right hand side. So as we go through the next few slides, we'll be matching them up to the information. So I'll give you a few minutes. Okay, so the first one that we're going to look at is the nucleus. Hopefully all of you can remember this one. It's usually the one that a lot of students can remember. So it contains all the genetic information, which is the DNA, and it controls the cell. Next one is the cytoplasm, and this is where all of the reactions take place. It is a bit like a jelly, so you can see the big amount of cytoplasm. You've then got the cell membrane that controls what goes into and out of the cell. And the last one is the mitochondria. This is the most important part. It gives the cell all the energy it needs to work. So without that, the cell wouldn't be able to do anything because it wouldn't have the energy to work. Okay, so here's what you should have hopefully have matched up as we're going through that. If not, don't worry, you've got a chance to do it now so you can make sure that you've understood it. So the mitochondria should match to where cell respiration takes place. It provides energy. Nucleus, it contains the genetic information DNA, and it controls what the cell should do. Remember that when you're talking about the nucleus, you never say it's the brain of the cell, because that would refer to it being an organ, and it's not. It only controls what the cell should do. It's not a brain. So cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance, and this is where all the cell reactions will take place. You've got the cell membrane, and that controls what goes in and out of the cell. So for example, oxygen, glucose, and waste. Okay, so when we're looking at animal cells down a microscope, all of you will have done this practical, and if not, hopefully we'll get a chance to redo it so you can do it again. In order for you to see cells, you've got to use a microscope, and for animal cells you have to dye certain types of cells different things so you can see them, otherwise you can't see all of the different organelles that are on an animal cell. So the dye that you use to see animal cells is called methylene blue. So if you look at the right hand side, which is a picture of an animal cell that has been swabbed from somebody's cheek, we can now match it up to the picture on the left to show you the parts. So You've got the cell membrane, which is fairly obvious to do. You've got the cytoplasm, and you've got the nucleus too. So that is methylene blue that is used, and this is one of the facts that you need to be able to recall. Okay, so moving on to the plant cell. This is going to be done in a slightly different way, so we're not going to go through all the individual ones that we've just been through already. As you can see, we've got the cell membrane, so that controls what goes in and out. You've got the mitochondria that provides the energy for the cell. You've got the nucleus that controls the cell. You've got the cytoplasm, that's the jelly-like substance, and that provides the area for chemical reactions to take place. Now, you'll notice that there's 3 extra on here. There's the vacuole, cell wall, and chloroplast. Now, those 3 different parts of the cell only occur in the plant cell. So, vacuole, that contains water, which gives the shape of the cell. So without it, if you ever look outside or you've got a plant at home and it starts to wilt, so it starts to shrivel up, that's because the vacuole hasn't been expanding because it hasn't received the water that it needs. You've got cell wall, that's made from the cellulose, which gives it strength, so that protects the cell as well, so it provides a structure. You've got the chloroplasts. Now these are really important in plant cells. They absorb the light from the sun to make the glucose. So glucose is the plant's food. This is how a plant makes its own food as well. And you'll notice that there's another vacuole down at the bottom, but obviously we've already covered what that role is. So, as before, we've looked at seeing an animal cell, but this time it's seeing a plant cell under the microscope. You will have all done this using an onion skin cell. So you would have taken a layer of onion and looked at it underneath and dyed it with iodine. Now you should be able to see all the different structures from that plant cell. So I'm not going to go through the labelling of it, but hopefully you can all at least label the nucleus, cell membrane, cell wall, and the cytoplasm. Okay, so we have covered 4 of those 5 facts that you need to be able to learn for me by the end of this lesson. So the last one is what specialised means. Specialised cell. So what does a specialised cell mean? I'll give you a few minutes if you can just pause it, and then we'll see what you come up with. Okay, so hopefully you've got something that's similar to this. So it's a cell that has a special shape and features that help it to do its job. Now you could have wrote down an example of a specialised cell, which would be absolutely perfect. So any of these that have been shown to you now that you can see, you've got a red blood cell, you've got a nerve cell, you've got a root hair cell, and you've got a sperm cell. So it's not just in an animal cell that you have specialised cells. It can be in a plant, it can be in an animal as well. Red blood cells are specifically important to us. We need them to carry the oxygen around. So it's actually specialised because of the shape and the features. So the features would be something called bioconcave shape. So how it dips, you can see in the picture, it dips a little bit, and that's how the oxygen is carried around the body. You've then got the one from the plant cell, the root hair cell. So that's how the water is absorbed into the plant in order for it to stay alive. You've got the sperm cell that's used in sexual reproduction, and you've got the neuron cell as well that's used to deliver your messages inside your body. So if you're in any danger, for example, it will know what to do. So just a little bit of fun from these pictures here. Can you tell me what a special cell is? What are those pictures pointing towards? Red blood cell. So hopefully from that little bit of a PowerPoint show, you've learned these facts. They can be found in your fact book. Make sure that you learn them, as I will be testing you on them in the starter of the next lesson. So hopefully you shall know parts of an animal cell: nucleus, cell membrane, cytoplasm and mitochondrion, and the extra parts that exist on a plant cell are the chloroplast, cell wall and vacuole. You've then got a specialised cell, which is something that's been adapted to carry out a certain function, like your red blood cell or your plant or your root hair cell. The dye that's used to see a plant cell under a microscope is iodine, and the dye used to see an animal cell under a microscope is methylene blue. So again, these are found in your fact book, but obviously they're there for you if you need to just make a note of them, and make sure that you've learnt them, because I'll be testing you on them next lesson in the starter activity. And finally, next lesson, the facts that we will be looking at will be diffusion, an example of diffusion, and unicellular organisms. So if you want to have a look around your notes or have a look online at BBC Bite Size just before we start that, so it gives you a bit of a head start, that'll be great. Okay, have fun learning it, and I shall see you soon.